your last non-conference opportunity tomorrow night against Southern. What are you hoping to get out of a game like this? You know, what are you looking to work on? What do you want to see?
Well, I think the first thing is just realizing the game we just played, the Crosstown Shootout, the emotion of the game, how the game ended, the fact that it just ended on Saturday evening, and we're pretty quick turnaround to play here on Tuesday. That we have to be ready. It's not about what happened in our last game and the energy that was used in that game. We have to be able to respond and play at a very high level. It's a home game. It's an important game, as you mentioned, because it wraps up really about a 2-month period of time, right, from the beginning of practice until conference play begins. So I think first, it's our responsibility to be ready to go and to compete and give ourselves the best opportunity and chance to win the game. We're playing a team, Southern, that plays a style that if, in fact, you're not ready, they will expose you. They play with tremendous effort. They play full-court basketball, both on defense and on offense. You look at their team, they force a ton of turnovers. I've watched them play against Arizona. I've watched them play against St. Mary's. They've played a very difficult schedule to this point. And in those games, even though the score ended up getting away from them, for a portion of each of those two games, they're creating havoc. They're creating turnovers. They're playing recklessly. They play 13 players. So I think, Sean Woods is somebody that I played against in college when he was at Kentucky. I know that he does a great job coaching, play with his personality, which is, very much hard playing and high effort. So we respect Southern coming off the heels of UC, and I think their style in particular, it's a concern for any coach, and it's a concern for me. We have to be ready to go.
When you play a team that is like Southern, you're also going to see St. John's and some of these other teams later on your schedule that like to do similar things. Is beating their pressure and forcing them into more of like a half-court basketball game, is that sort of how you take them out of what they want to do and make it an advantage for Xavier?
Right. So decision-making is everything. It's not just taking care of the ball, because sometimes when you play against a frenetic style, a pressing style, they can uncharacteristically make certain players do things that they don't do, take shots they shouldn't take. And although it doesn't go in the stat sheet as a turnover, it really feels like a turnover because we're not ourselves. So I think, number one, you want to take care of it. You don't want live ball turnovers. You don't want to allow them to steal it. When they get steals and turnovers and deflections, that's when they can really get out in transition and score. And I feel like a broken record to some degree, simply because we've played, the way our schedule is unfolded, an incredibly and a high number of teams that play this style. Maybe not this frenetic, but I remember our Montana game, Morgan State, West Virginia, UC in the second half, really throughout the game actually, and now you have Southern. So I think the good news is we are experienced in playing against pressure, but how many turnovers we have, how we attack them, being able to get some easy baskets, and then obviously we have to guard them too. I haven't talked about that yet, but they're smaller, they're quick. I think they have a lot of different players that can score. And again, it comes back to us being ready and having a couple good days here preparing so that we're ready tomorrow.
When you watch the Crosstown Shootout film, did anything else stand out, anything that really got your attention upon rewatching it, maybe from a different angle?
Well, I credit UC. I thought they really played with amazing effort and energy in the second half. I did think our team wore down, not because we're not in great shape or anything like that. I mean, in an environment like that, playing on the road, it's just a matter of having more depth on our side. I talked about it after the game, and you could almost see, first 20 minutes that doesn't come into play as much. Even the first 4 minutes of the second half, I thought it was as much us coming out of the locker room and not defending like we did in the first half. They took advantage of it. But, when you start getting into 12 minutes left in the game, 8 minutes, 4 minutes, Instead of us playing with the pace that we play with, the movement that we had, everything really slowed down, and that can't happen. So, us as a staff being able to develop our bench, I think we have quite a few guys that can really play, getting them in there in the game a little bit more. And when I look at our schedule, there's a lot of bonuses and pluses for playing a very, very difficult non-conference schedule. One characteristic that sometimes is often overlooked is you don't have the opportunity to get some of your younger players or inexperienced players in the game maybe as often as you would like, and especially in the month of November. We were just in every game, to the wire. So we were playing to win, and therefore our bench was a little bit shorter. So we have to keep working on it. It happens in practice. It certainly happens in games. And I don't want you at all to come across like we didn't get some good play in the UC game. There's quite a few opportunities that, Des did a really good job. Jerome, I thought, played a very good game. But some of the other guys, we have to get them in the game a little earlier, and we have to get more from them.
One of those guys that you went with the first time this year was Cesar first off the bench as a backup big. Is that a sign that he's improving and you're starting to trust him a little bit more? Or where do things stand in that space?
Yeah, and I thought that I put Cesar in a very difficult position, because he hasn't played very much. It's hard to just put him in for the first game action at UC. It's like skip steps, and I regret that a little bit. However, the reason I did go with him and we went with him as a staff is exactly what you said. I think his attitude is outstanding. I think he's talented. He's been practicing really hard with very little opportunity given to him in games. And, I thought that his performance every day translated into giving him a chance to come in the game and help. Deontay Miles is also right there. We haven't given up on Deontay at all. But I went with Cesar because, to me, he's trending in the right direction. One of the things we're on Deontay about is just when he comes into the game, you can't foul. You just can't. If you're going to come into the game every game and foul, you kind of negate some of the good things that you can do. So, hopefully we can help him get over that.
Developing your bench, is that one of the things that maybe takes a little bit more time to find trust and really figure out in terms of, you know a lot about your offense to this point. You know a lot about your defense. There's a lot of things you know. Is that generally one of the things that arrives later?
I think every team's different. Sometimes, because of experience, and, experience is also me being here for the last 3 or 4 years, let's say, versus being the new coach. We're all not quite as familiar with each other as we will be. But yeah, and like I mentioned to you, if you think about some of the games we played in November, they've been really difficult, challenging games. We haven't been up 20 points or in a position to really get some of our younger guys or inexperienced players more opportunity. We've stuck with our starters more. There's some benefits to that as well, but we have to develop our bench. If the one thing that we learned in our last game, if we're going to expect our team to play with great effort, with great pace and movement on offense, and we're going to play man-to-man defense, each of the 5 starters just needs an opportunity to take a break, and then we have to be able to get quality play from the bench. I do think that we have a number of players that can do it. Didn't work out in the last game as well as we would have hoped. But moving forward, that's, I think, a real key to our team.